breakdown. 2 seconds.
I just feel like
We
I got the
are
best
live, y'all.
situation.
Welcome to the stream. It is How I
100%.
Travel, and we are back from the holidays. Thanks everybody for joining. You know, it's going to be a great time, great new year, and we have a super guest star today, Cortney Howell,
Yes.
who has been on the road for the last year doing van life in the United States, traveling all over the place, seeing a ton of the national parks around here too. So yeah, we're super excited to have her on. She did her own van renovation, just a wealth of knowledge over here. So super excited to have you on. And yeah, where have you been,
Thanks for
Courtney?
having me. I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah, how did you get into traveling and you know doing the van life and um, where have you been? Where do you want to go?
I feel like I chose van life right before COVID in like 2019. I was joking with people and I was like, this is insane. Like no one ever wants to go on the trips that I want to go on, or no one ever can take the time off, or no one has the money. And I was like, I could totally just live in a van with Gunner, and we could just go do these things that I want to go see. And so money has always been like tight. So I've never really been able to like travel like I wanted. And I felt like every time I went somewhere, I hated coming home. Like that was so sad. Like I just wanted to stay there and go to like the next adventure. And so van life just kind of seemed to make sense. And so I talked it over with my work and they were cool with me traveling. So we just were like, okay, we're just going to take work with us on the road and travel full time. And it has been great. I bought my van from Indianapolis, so it's not totally filled with Michigan rust because all the salt on the roads. And so it's been mostly good to me. I've got an older van. It's a 2002 Dodge Ram van with a high top on it. And so it is older and we've been quite in the shop. But I did manage to do all the inside work myself. That is what I have done. I don't know if you want to hear more about like the build, solar, all
Absolutely.
that good stuff.
Yeah. Take us through your journey.
Okay. So I bought the van and it was already converted for like a nursing home or something. And so someone else had bought it in Colorado and converted it, and they had like we had to make the bed every day, right? So you had the tabletop thing, and then you had to put your pieces all together, and then you figure out your mattress, and then boom, you got a bed. And I was like, I took it out on a couple camping trips to see if I liked it, and it was terrible. So I stripped out the whole inside and left the paneling you can see on the wall. The lights were already in the ceiling, and there was a fan in the top. And so I took all the cabinetry out and created a fixed bed, and I love it. I've got running water. So I've got a pump for my water. We've got 375 watts of solar on the top. So and that's between 3 different panels. And then I've got 2 100 amp hour batteries, just AGM batteries because I'm not rich enough for lithium batteries. But they've all been great. I mean, as long as you've got the sun. What else about the build, Gunner? I've got a fridge. I've got an oven behind me, and it runs off propane, so we cook a lot in the van. It's got an oven and a stovetop burners. And we've got a heater, which has been crucial.
Is that the diesel heater?
Yes, a diesel heater. They're amazing. If you haven't heard of them, you need one. Don't do propane. Don't bother. Diesel heater is where it's at.
Yeah, some good advice.
Yeah, it was 15 degrees today this morning when we woke up in Arizona. So the van was 40, and it only takes, I just push a button, and then the van is like 70 degrees in 30 minutes. So it's really not that bad.
70 Fahrenheit, right? So 15 Fahrenheit this morning? Man.
Correct. Yeah, it was cold. And we were going to stay in New Mexico last night, but there was snow on the ground. And I didn't trust not getting stuck. It was kind of muddy and you can't see. Normally, I would get out and walk it, but I haven't really done snow. I've done like sketchy roads, dirt, pothole situations, because we're normally in the national forests. But that was just, I wasn't going to get stuck in the snow in the middle of New Mexico. So we opted to make it to Arizona last night.
Nice. Have you ever had to like change a tire on the road yourself or anything like that, or has it always been easy to get somewhere and get maintenance done? And
I have not had to call AAA or do anything with tires. I've been in the shop. I mean, I have been in the shop most of this week. I left last Saturday, so I've officially been on the road for 1 week. Well, 8 days. And we were in the shop for like 4 of those 7 days. But it was mostly just related to like, my steering wheel is really loose and this sucks to drive, and I'm terrified to drive on the highway and pass semis. So we've been in the shop for air conditioning and steering parts and brakes like 4 times, but that's just old car problems.
Mhm.
You just run into like parts being hard to find, or no one knows how to work on the old cars. So I get why people buy the $70,000-$80,000 Ford Transits, but I wanted to pay outright. I didn't want a loan on a car or my house because I already have like a mortgage and I'm paying that. And so I was just trying to keep costs low. So I bought my van for $4,500, but I'm probably 15 grand in, if I had to guess, between like mechanical repairs and then like the inside outfitting it.
So
Right.
think of like all those kind of repairs and the the breakdowns of flat tires and the snow, the weather, and all that sort. How much planning do you put into where you're going and what you're going to do, or do you just, it is what it is when you get there, sort of thing?
I feel like you start with a plan in the beginning and then you go sideways and then throw away the plan. I was like, I'm going to be in Sedona in a week and it's going to be great. And that didn't happen. Sometimes things just don't work out. I found out that it was like 3 degrees at night in Sedona, Arizona. And I was like, okay, so I guess I don't need to rush there because that's not what I'm looking for. I often don't know where I'm sleeping until maybe 24 hours before I get there.
Okay.
Wow.
So most of the time it's day by day.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of apps that I use that help me find free spots. Because I don't have to be in town. I just need internet to work. So as long as it has cell phone coverage, we try to get out as far as we can from people. So there is no one in sight right now, other than us. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to come up with plan A, B, and C. You go to the first spot and you try your service and there's no cell service. So you got to try B and C. Or I've got AT&T and Verizon, so I have 2 options to find service, but that normally is the make it or break it, is the cell phone service, because I have to have cell phone service to work. And my mom would send the cops out for me if she didn't hear from me. So
Yeah,
she's got me stalked on Google Maps, so she always knows where I am.
She's got your live location. That's a really interesting point that you say about having 2 internet providers just to cover all bases, so that it doesn't really matter what tower you're going past, you're going to get a ping, you're going to get that connection.
It's a must, honestly. Like, I have a router. Up there, and that helps me get AT&T, which I have found to be most of the time the best, hands down, in the middle of nowhere. Verizon has very good service as well, but AT&T seems to cover those rural areas really well. And yeah, it's often come in handy, but you pay for it. I mean, I'm paying $175 a month for internet for AT&T.
Wow.
So, and I pay $25 a month for my phone, and I'm using that probably 40% of the time for hotspot.
Is that reimbursed from your company that you're working for also? Nope, just straight up?
No. Yeah, it's kind of just like, that's what I chose to do. And so they don't pay for like internet at people's houses, right? And so I just kind of feel like if I chose to do this, I'm just grateful that they let me. And so I don't mind paying for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my bigger expenses every month.
Yeah, I was gonna say, finding a job that allows you to do that as well. Now, how did you approach that and say, oh, by the way, I'm just gonna go live in a van. Can I work from it? Like, how? Oh yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, we'll see you later.
I feel like I joked about it in the beginning before I bought the van. Like I was just kind of like, oh, screw this, I'm just gonna go live in a van. And it was like, haha, until I bought the van. And then we were, it was during COVID, so I bought it in 2020. And so we were already remote from the office. So I was like, well, if I'm already remote, where does it matter where I'm remote from? And so because we weren't going to the office, I don't think we went to the office all year in 2020. And so I traveled in 2022 because it took me a year to do the van. But yeah, when I finally approached it, they were just kind of like, yeah, like as long as you're connected and clients are happy and you're meeting deadlines and like there's no issue, like we don't care. And so they've actually featured me a couple times on their LinkedIn and on their socials, like, hey, here's our web designer out here, traveling the country and doing the national parks, and pretty much like the ultimate work-life balance, I think, is what they're promoting it as. So it wasn't too hard. My team is online, everything we do is digital. So it just didn't make sense. Like, why does it matter where I am as long as I am online?
Sorry to keep interjecting, but this is such a really good point to make, because so many people think that they can't travel, they can't go and do what they want to do because of work. But actually, if you're working remotely, it's absolutely doable. There's no reason. You're proof that anybody can do what you want to do and still work no matter where you are. So I think that's really cool. You're very lucky.
Yeah, I feel like even if you're just taking like a longer vacation, right? Like, okay, instead of just going here for 4 days and taking 4 days off, like why couldn't I stay there for 10 days? And then I'll work from home some of those days. And even though it's only a couple hours after work, like you're still traveling. You can still go do dinner somewhere. You can still, depending on what time zone, you can go do a hike after work or, just take a longer vacation and kind of work. And then I feel like you just get assimilated more into the culture and you can understand the area where you are more than just being a tourist for 4 days and having your time off. Like, I don't know, get to spend more time.
So what was your route when you left? What did you do
the first time?
last year? Yeah, the first time.
So I left Michigan January of 2022, and I went south, made it all the way to Florida. We had a family vacation in Florida, and so I just drove there and met everybody when they flew in. And so we did that. And then I went down around the coast. So I wanted to hit like Louisiana. I had to get some, oh my gosh, what are they? Beignets? No. Yeah. The donuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, beignets. Right? That's right. I think that's right.
And whatever it is, they were great. The powdered sugar donuts. So I knew I had to go to Louisiana. So we went on the coast of Louisiana, and through Texas, which is the longest state ever to drive through. I thought it was Indiana, but it's Texas. And Texas is very windy. And then southern New Mexico, southern Arizona is where I went. And then up like California, but I didn't do the coast. I heard the Highway 1 is really hard to camp along. And so we have only paid $18 to camp on the road total the whole year. So I was like, okay, well, I need free camping, so that's not going to work. So we stayed inland California until we got to the coast. So we stayed like in the mountains, Alabama Hills, Mammoth Lakes, and then made it to the northern coast of California, did Oregon, Washington, very beautiful. And then kind of just hit those, flyover states, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho are super underrated. Very beautiful, beautiful skies. And then just booked it home. We were home for like a month in August of 2022. The van had some issues. The AC wasn't working. It was hotter than blazes. Yeah, so we made it home to where air conditioning exists. And then we left in September of last year, and we did like East Coast. So I went up and did Maine, Acadia National Park, and then went down along the coast, the Carolinas, Virginia, and then made it down to Georgia before I turned around to come home for Christmas. And then so we just left again a little over a week ago. And we booked it west. As you could see, I went much faster this time. I knew where I wanted to spend my time. So we just hauled ass.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah,
Where-
Yeah, there's
that's
a lot of national parks we want to spend more time at.
Right,
Like
that's good.
Glacier and Yosemite. There's a lot of hikes that I didn't get to do because I was kind of rushing home for weddings. And
Mhm.
this year I'm flying home for weddings. So I'm not going to let it bring me home in the van. I'm just going to fly.
Gotcha.
So that'll be an interesting. I have to leave Gunner. I have to leave the van. I'm hoping to leave it with a friend. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Yeah, man, that is a wild story, and no plans of stopping, right? You're just gonna keep going for as long as you can.
I would like to, but my boyfriend really wants me home in Michigan. So I think I'm going to spend this time doing the West Coast for most of the year. So I'll be hanging out on the West Side. I wanted to go to Alaska, but it's just a really far drive. And I have a really old van and it doesn't get good gas mileage. And we've just been in the shop a lot. And so I don't know if I'm willing to put all the money into that. I haven't decided. I have to get Starlink, because like I have to have service through Canada, and I can't just take 10 days off of work to get through Canada both times. So I have a feeling I'll be done around the end of this year, and hopefully find somewhere that I can buy my own land and have my own space, and live off the land, build a shipping container home, have some chickens and some more dogs. And I just want my space, growing up or living lately in Detroit. Not that I grew up in Detroit, but it's just concrete and people are so rude. And you go south and people are just kind and willing to help you. And like, oh, we're helping people. Like, I want to help. Like, okay, cool. Thank you. So I want to go south. I want mountains in my life. Michigan's really beautiful, but I just want to change the scenery, and I'm ready for some space to myself.
Gotcha.
That was something else I was going to ask. Do you feel like the space? Do you feel claustrophobic? Do you feel trapped in at any point? Do you feel like too disconnected from reality, the real world? Like, I think that sometimes you get a bit like, oh, what am I going to do?
I think because I'm normally chasing good weather, which is, iffy right now because it's cold. But I don't like the snow. And so I'm trying to avoid the cold weather. So really the outside is my home, ideally. I mean, Gunnar helps me get outside because he needs to walk multiple times a day. But no, I mean, it's definitely a small space. But it's big enough for me, not so much two people. But we just get outside. So no, I don't feel claustrophobic. I mean, you just get to leave, right? You're just like, okay, next place. And since we're in the national forest most of the time, you're not looking at other people and other people's rigs. So I don't know. It's been pretty good, I would say. Haven't had to worry about that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. If that's never really even crossed your mind, or never even been a thought like, oh, I feel a bit bored or a bit lonely or whatever.
Yeah, I think because of technology, and then the fact that I have to stay connected for work, like I'm constantly video chatting my girlfriends, or I'm talking to my mom on the phone, so I'm definitely getting my social interaction. And then I also travel with some friends, and so we hang out, a lot during the day. We'll play games, or I'm working from their bus, or we're playing card games and we're cooking food, and that's a lot of fun. So I can get my social interaction there, and then everyone gets to go back to their respective vehicles and go ahead.
So are they people that you've met on the road at meets, or just in passing sort of thing? How do you meet people actually when you're on the road?
Dogs. I'm gonna say dogs. I met Tim and Ann, some buddies. They've got a shuttle bus. They've got two dogs, Pearl and Mabel. And at the time they only had Mabel. And she's this precious one-eyed rescue bulldog. And we were on the beach in Louisiana. So this was like March. So it's probably like a month and a half. And I remember I was working really, really long days. It was, like 10, 12-hour days. And so I remember finally being done with work, and I brought my blanket out on the beach, and it was like stupid windy, but I didn't care. And so I'm sitting out there with Gunner, and then like this girl's over like waving. She goes, "Can my dog come say hi?" And I'm telling you, it's always the dogs. So Mabel comes over, and Gunner and Mabel are like, you know, doing the smelling each other. And then we decided we were going to have coffee later that night, and we were going to play games. And so we played Yahtzee and drank coffee, and then boom, friends. So we've honestly been traveling on and off all last year. I have yet to meet up with them this year, but there's plans very soon to meet up. I haven't been to any van meetups myself, although I know that's a very common thing, and I would go. They just don't seem to be in the area I'm in. But I think we had an initial connection, you know, Tim and Ann and I, because we all have more unique vehicles. I don't know if my internet just crapped down or not.
No, you're okay.
Okay.
Just about got you there.
Yeah, we have unique vehicles, right? So they've got an older shuttle bus, and I have this older Dodge Ram van. And so I was different than everybody else because everyone else is driving Mercedes Sprinter vans or Ford Transit vans. Everyone has like less than 5-year-old new vehicles. So I think we just kind of had a connection with the dogs, and then it's just not, we don't have white cabinets inside, and it doesn't look like the Instagram, you know, sought after van. And I think we just kind of were on the same page, you know, and it's just been a friendship ever since. But dogs,
cool.
Dogs, coffee, and games. That's how you meet people.
Yeah, is Gunner around? Can we see him?
Yeah, he's snoozing. Look at this guy.
Aww.
Oh.
I like his jacket.
What
That's his passenger seat. Right, good
Sorry?
boy.
What time is it there where you are?
It is what, around 10:30 or so.
And he's snoozing already.
We went out
take
for
hours.
we went out for a walk earlier. So he got to run off leash for the first time in a very long time.
Mhm.
So, because he was attacked by a wild boar in December.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was fun. And so he really hasn't been off leash since then. And so today we finally have made it to the middle of nowhere, and so he was able to run around off leash. So I think he just tired himself out this morning.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
wild boars don't play.
No. Yeah, that's a scary thing. I mean, it's good you're traveling solo, right? So having the dog with you, but then things like this happen sometimes when you're in nature, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
it's scary, and you have to know how to handle it when it comes up, and you know, what are you going to do and all that. People don't think about that when they think van life out the gate. I'm putting words in your mouth probably, but like things happen. So it's like, how do
Things
you account
happen.
for all of those eventualities?
Yeah. You know, the desert, you've got cacti, and Gunner's never experienced that before. So there was many thorns, you know, being pulled from his body at one point. I'm trying to think if he's really got into, we've seen a couple bears. I think I saw one in Mammoth Lakes. It was a brown bear. We literally ran back to the van. I was like, I know you're not supposed to turn around. I'm like running backwards toward the van, hoping I don't trip over something. And then I saw a black bear in like Glacier National Park. We've seen a handful of coyotes, but they seem to be a lot more skittish. They were gone. You know, as soon as we knew they were there, they were gone. A lot of elk, a lot of I've seen a couple moose, a lot of cows. Gunner likes to chase the little tiny lizards that live in the bushes in the desert. Gunner likes to chase anything, but that's one that I feel comfortable letting him chase. So he tries to chase the lizards. He hasn't got them because they're too fast and too small, but it keeps him occupied. And only a handful of times have we come across snakes either. So we haven't had any, like, other than the wild boar, which was enough for the whole year. We haven't had any other wild animal crazy encounters, thankfully. Nothing, no bears trying to open my door or anything, although I've heard it and seen it happen. We've been lucky.
Wow.
Bears can open doors. Keep your doors locked.
Yeah. There's some crazy stuff on the internet you see bears doing. You know, how they learn how to do that, going through bins, and where do they get that from? Not in the
Yeah, I
forest.
actually feel a little safer sometimes being in the middle of nowhere, because I feel like bears do target campsites. I mean, right? Because you know there's people and you know there's going to be food. But if we're just out here by ourselves, I'm not in a tent, you know, so like all the food is in the fridge or, you know, in the cupboard. So like nothing has any crazy, I don't know, I'm not cooking outside over the fire normally, like fresh meat or anything. So I feel like we're not drawing the bears to us. So let's keep it that way.
Just speaking of food and stuff like that, how do you organize like what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, where do you get it from? If you're out in the desert and things like that, how much food storage do you have? How do you work it all out?
That's a good question. Well, here, I'll show you my crazy cabinet, or this is my food cubbies.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And then I've got a basket full of like fresh fruit, and I've got fresh veggies, and then I have a fridge. So I can last for about a week if you're eating fresh food, and then the fresh food starts to dwindle. But I can last for about a week. I normally cook most of the time. My favorite is staying in one spot for about a week or so, or like 5-6 days, you know, like a weekend to a weekend. But I have like a 50-liter fridge, and so there's enough for, you know, like some condiments. Unfortunately, ranch did not make it into the fridge. It's really sad. I don't want to talk about it. But we've got the main things.
Your Midwest is showing there. We put that away.
I bought ranch packets, so hopefully we'll figure out how to make that work. Yes, ranch and pizza. Like, come on, right? But yeah, so we do a lot of cooking, a lot of sandwiches, because sandwiches are easy, especially during like the work day. In the summertime, it is a lot harder to keep the van cool. So I try not to use the oven because it makes it that much more hotter in here. So we eat a lot of sandwiches. There may or may not be some boxed mac and cheese over there. We do a lot with like potatoes and pasta, and like, I don't know, tacos seems to be one of my favorites. Things that you can make multiple meals of, you know, then you can make nachos or anything with eggs, you know, leftovers from last night's dinner, throw some eggs in there, boom, you got breakfast. I make coffee with my jet boil every morning. People use that on like backpacking trips. It's just quicker than using the oven. So I have coffee every morning. I mean, I have all my amenities other than hot water, but if you need hot water, you better just boil it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
food
works.
is, yeah, I mean, food works. I don't really like to cook, so I've been forced to cook. I don't know if I like it anymore, but I do cook more because I would rather put money into the gas tank.
Yeah, so I guess that's another big question then. Your fuel bill, like, how do you like budget your fuel bill and stuff like that? Because I guess that takes. I know you say you like to stay somewhere a few days at a time, and if you haven't really got a plan, or you had a plan but you had to scrap it, and you're just winging it, how does fuel work? Because you've got to plan to be near a fuel station at some point. So
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go out in the middle of nowhere, you better have at least half a tank, because you don't want to get stuck out there. I've had a couple times in like Utah where actually it was like no gas station for 175 miles. It's like, I guess we're turning around. Costco and Sam's Club gas stations are the best because they're discounted fuel. But I probably run at least $600 a month in gas. Minimum. I've been up to about $1,400 in gas before, and that was also last year. So gas was a little higher, which hurt. California gas is real expensive. That was like $6.70 a gallon when I was out there. That was sad. But that's just when you decide to slow down and just stay put. Or, you know, you find those California towns where you don't have to drive very far to get from one thing to another. But I get about 10 miles to a gallon. So it's not that great. but it also is my whole house, and that's with a full water tank and a full gas tank and me and a dog. So I don't look at it as too bad, but that is definitely my biggest expense is gas. If I was good just staying in one spot for like a month, then I could live really, really cheaply. But that's just not the case. I don't like to stay in one spot too long.
So does that ever play a part of how long you stay somewhere then, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. Gas just is what it is. It's just part of the adventure, right? So there are errand days. Like yesterday we had it was errand day, so I got to take a shower at Planet Fitness. I went to Walmart and went grocery shopping. We got dog food, we got diesel for the diesel heater. My propane lasts a long time for the oven, thankfully, so that's like that can go months, like 4 months or so. I've got an 11-pound propane tank. But yeah, I mean, errand days are always a weekend day for the most part, which kind of sucks because those are your days off of work, right? But yeah, you got to make sacrifices.
Yeah, how cool. So are you planning on making any more updates to your van? Like just holding on to it, or do you have any new projects coming up?
I don't at this time, and it feels so good to not. I feel like I always am carrying around like parts to a project, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, if I just put this where it needs to go and I finish the project, I can stop carrying around this thing. I broke my bug screen, ripped my bug screen last year, so I have to put my new one up, but that's probably the only project I can think of. And a bug screen is mandatory come mosquito season.
Yeah.
Whew. Or like ladybugs. I didn't know ladybugs could be a problem. I think I'm still carrying around ladybugs from Virginia. I'm telling you, they're like making babies somewhere. Like we see them every once in a while. There's still like a ladybug, and I'm like, where are you living? Like I don't understand. Yeah, no project right now. I just had another shop bill, so hopefully we're done putting money into the van for a minute, and I can just like go to national parks and buy things at the visitor center instead of go to the shop and pay for more parts.
Right. Yeah. Have you been to every state in the U.S.?
Almost. Do you see?
The pin. I can see the pin.
I'm missing Alaska, Arkansas, North Dakota, and Nebraska.
That's it?
I don't know if I'll ever make it. It's not really a goal to hit every state. I mean, it'd be cool to fill the map, but like, what's in North Dakota and Nebraska? Someone please tell me. Maybe there's things there. I don't know. Arkansas, what is there to see? I